Good evening, everyone, and thank you for coming to our virtual SEND transition meeting. I've spoken to some of you already, but for those who haven't met me yet, my name is Dennis Campbell, and I am the Director of Learning Support and Inclusion at Pershore High School. To give you a little bit of background information about myself, just like your children, I'm new to the school, having started in April of this academic year. Previously, I was a Senko in a large secondary school in Birmingham, where I was the Senko. I also taught Spanish, intervention groups in literacy and numeracy, and I also delivered the ASDAN life skills course. Unfortunately, technology doesn't allow you to see both me and the presentation at the same time, so you'll hear me, but you won't necessarily see me. My colleague, the Deputy Head, Mr. Nocton, is also present, and he'll be changing the slides for me throughout the presentation. Okay, so just quickly go through the aims really for the meeting. The meeting aims to achieve the following 3 points: to support you in preparing for September and starting at Pershore High School, to provide you with some key information on provision and support available at Pershore High School, and to give you the opportunity to ask some questions. And there's a Q&A option, for you at the bottom of the screen. It looks like 2 speech bubbles with a question mark. I'll not be able to respond to these immediately, but I will follow these up with a frequently asked questions document that I will share with you all. Just for your reference as well, this is being recorded, so if you want to have a look at it again, you're welcome to do so. And if other people haven't been able to make it, they'll also be able to see this. Thank you. Okay, so the school vision was shared with you during the whole school parents' evening, and it's important to reiterate that the high expectations that we have for our children is expected across the board, regardless of their additional needs. And within our learning support and inclusion department, we will continually focus on developing these skills and developing the necessary skills to enable our children to be lifelong independent learners. Thank you. But with that in mind, I think it's always important as well to share with you our specific vision and my vision as the Senko at Pershore High School. And our department's vision specifically is to empower staff to provide a high quality and inclusive education for all learners, removing any barriers to learning and creating a culture of high expectations and challenge. And I want to achieve this through 3 key areas: looking at nurturing and an inclusive learning environment, developing a continuous learning culture, and deploying staff effectively. And I'm just going to talk through these very quickly. The nurturing and an inclusive learning environment, for me, it's really important that we focus on that inclusion and equality for the students, that we identify early on any additional needs that our students have. And we've had conversations already with the middle schools that your children are currently attending for students that are already on the SEND register, and we've had conversations in case any students need to be added on, and we will be able to do that in Pershore High School in September. We have a lot of experts within the department that are specialists in loads of different areas of SEND, ranging from autism, SEMH, SPLDs, dyslexia, dyscalculia, dyspraxia, etc. And it's our job to work together and with yourselves in a collaborative approach to remove all barriers to learning for these students. We want to focus on a whole school approach to SEND, and that involves every single person in the school, all stakeholders with your child, to make sure that we all sing from the same hymn sheet, really. Staff deployment, we are very lucky to have a wonderful team of teaching assistants and learning support practitioners who are there to support your children throughout their time at school. Consistency for me is massively important, and we hope that the students or the staff that you work with that will work with your children, you'll see them through school in a variety of different subjects through their time at Pershore High School. And then finally, to develop a continuous learning culture, and this is more for ourselves and the teaching staff rather than your children, but we want to make sure that we're up to date with all our SEND knowledge, that we develop staff appropriately and we share good practice. And a lot of the good practice will come from yourselves. You are the experts, you live with your children, you bring your children up, you will know strategies that that might work really, really well, and I would ask you to share those with us and let us know what works really well for you, and then we can implement that within the classroom environment so that we're both, again, singing from the same hymn sheet at home and at school. Quality first teaching at a universal level is vital as well, ensuring that we provide strategies to staff to support children at a universal level in the classroom, and then adding additional strategies where necessary through external agencies such as the speech and language team, the complex communication team, or other advisory teachers that we work with, and myself as well as the SENCO. Thank you. The summer term is traditionally the time of year when schools plan a raft of activities and events to support pupils moving from one phase of their education to the next. And this year's transition inevitably looks different and presents a challenge on many levels. The changes that occur as a result of transition, particularly at key points such as moving from primary to secondary, can be stressful for any child, even in more normal situations. For those with special educational needs and disabilities, these significant changes can bring added challenges and worries. A key part of my role in meeting the needs of pupils with SEND is to facilitate additional transition support. And although we've been unable to do many of our original activities, there are things we have done and things that we plan to do in the coming months. And the following slides will talk you through what we have already done and plans we have moving forward. So the first one is connecting remotely. We've already done, from an SEND perspective, we've done remote meetings with our middle school staff to speak with the other SENCOs, and we've done file transfers. So we have all the relevant information that we need in order to support your child. And that will help me to create a picture of need, and will also allow me to create documents and create information to share with teaching staff, so that from the first day in September, when your children are with us, they're aware of how exactly to meet your child's needs. We've also created a virtual tour, which is on the school website, and that is part of the online transition page. The online transition page has a raft of activities for your children to work through, and I've also shared with you an SEND information pack and a transition pack, and I'm going to talk through one of those pages in particular from that document a little later in the slide. Hopefully you've also had a chance to attend the new intake information evening, which went through some of the more logistical parts of transition, looking at the school day, uniform, your class groupings and things like that. House assemblies have also taken place, so your children will now be assigned to a house, and you will also be receiving a letter explaining about the form group allocations, and I'll talk about that in a little bit as well. The next one is focusing on emotional well-being, and it's entirely understandable to feel anxious. And I'm in a position where I'm new to the school as well, and I'm quite anxious to start in September, so I understand where they're coming from. And that's why I sent out an SEND questionnaire, and that SEND questionnaire was just for you to really rate the levels of anxiety your children are feeling. And I'm going to have a look at those, and then I'll be able to put some additional support in place for those children that have identified particular anxieties in particular areas. And again, it just creates that additional awareness for us, for them coming in September, so that you're rest assured that we are here, we are supportive of your children, and we are hoping to welcome them and be as welcoming as we can do. The COOTH website is also really, really useful for you to access at home. And that's useful for children from the ages of 10 right up to 18, and you can sign up for that. They can sign up for that, and there's live chats. There's chats with counsellors, mental health teams, and if your child is feeling particularly anxious, that's something that they can check out as well. In the pack that I've given you for the transition, there are loads of activities to get you to talk about their feelings with them, and I think it's really important to do that. And it's okay to be worried, and it's okay to feel anxious, but we need to know those things, and the more that we know, the more we can help your child. And it's very easy for us to feel negative about certain things. And just on this slide, I've given a little example of reframing negative thoughts. So I'm worried about going back to school because of coronavirus, for example. Well, reframing that in a way of saying, I am worried, it's okay to be worried, but we know that the school have put the strategies in place to make sure that we're safe in school. and they wouldn't have us back in school if it wasn't safe. And I think it's important that you talk through those with your children. Thank you. Again, the next one is building positive relationships. And I've had the opportunity to speak to some of you already this week, which has been fantastic, and it's so insightful to speak to some of you, because you know it's more than what we get on a piece of paper, and it's always better to hear kind of firsthand from the family. So far we've done our year 8 intake evening, we've done the SEND transition booklet, we've given you the virtual tour, and I've also liaised with the middle school. And moving forward, I would like to do some more things to aid with transition. And transition for me is quite a long-term thing. So in September, transition will continue. And I would like to offer virtual coffee mornings, should we be allowed, given the current government guidance, for you to come in and meet myself and the rest of my team. And it gives you an opportunity to have a look at some of the provision in place that we've got. And it also gives us an opportunity to reflect on those first 3 or 4 weeks that your child will have had at Pershore High School. I also hope to put forward some Senko slots, and they would be a block in my timetable where I would be free to either have you come in for a meeting or do phone calls where I could have a one-to-one conversation with you. I'd be contactable at all times anyway, but this just formalizes some available slots for every week for families to come in and have a chat should they need to. Thank you. Within the pack that I gave you, there is also something to do with transition passports. So there's a page that looks at things that your child's interested in, what they like doing in school, what helps them in school, some notable achievements from primary school, from middle school. It'd be lovely if you could fill that in, because that's something that we would do on our transition days anyway. And that gives us a little bit more of an insight again into your child, and it's something for us to look at when we're working with them. So if they are feeling anxious, we can say, well, let's have a look at where you've come from and where what you've done to get here, because that'll be a big thing to celebrate. So if you could have a look at that, that'd be really great. And then we've also got our orientation support. So you'll be receiving a letter tomorrow anyway, but there will be 2 transition days in September. And the 2 transition days, the first day will be for year 8, completely on their own, to give them an opportunity to have a look at the school, meet the staff. And then the second day will be with year 11 and year 12, so a slightly condensed amount of students within the school. And hopefully these 2 days can be an opportunity for your children to have a look around the school and familiarise themselves with everything before it gets really busy again and becomes a normal functioning school. As you will have been made aware in the whole school intake evening, we have vertical tutoring. Unfortunately, due to current government guidelines, we've had to change that to year group based tutoring, which in some contexts that is a positive, as students will be within the same year group, will be within their same group with each other, and they'll be able to mingle and mix with their own year group and get to know them a little bit better. So from a transition perspective, it might be beneficial for them given the unusual context that we're in at the moment. But more information about that will follow. And then the final thing on this slide, just to help with orientation, is practicing some key skills with them at home over the summer holidays. They deserve a break, and they should have a break from now on, but in the run up to coming back to school in September, having a look at some of these key points would be quite useful, just to get them back into the school frame of mind. Reading a timetable, telling the time, interpreting a map of the school when that's been shared, preparing looking at some key resources needed for different subjects, so learning how to use maybe a protractor, calculator, and you'll have used these before, but just getting them, it might be beneficial for them just to get them back into that school frame of mind to have a look at them again. And reading and understanding the school rules. The school rules are very important for us. It keeps students safe, it keeps students learning, and the rules apply within the SEND department and within the whole school. And I'd ask you to have a look at over them, and make sure that the children understand them before they do come to us in September. Thank you. Okay. We're very fortunate to have some outstanding facilities to support our children with additional needs and disabilities, and I'm sure some of you have had the opportunity to see some of this. We're very excited to welcome your children to our school, and we've been working very hard to make sure our department is designed in a way that will work as effectively as possible to meet the variety of needs your children will have. From an SEND perspective, it's important for us to recognise that all children are unique, and there is not a one-size-fits-all policy to follow. However, our SEND offer, information report and policy outline in detail some of the provisions we have on offer at the school. And some of these will apply to your child, and they're on the school website ready for you to have a look at. Within the structure of the department, there is myself, who's the Director of Learning Support and Inclusion. Then we have the Inclusion Manager, who will work primarily in the base, but will also support me within the wider SEND department. We have a specialist teacher for dyslexia, who assesses and runs dyslexia intervention. We have a pastoral mentor, and then we also have our wide range of learning support practitioners who are very experienced in a variety of SEND needs, as I've mentioned before. Within our department, in terms of facilities, we have two big classrooms and one dyslexia classroom. We also have a sensory room, and we have a workspace as well for students, alongside my office, the pastoral office, and a assisted bathroom as well for children with disabilities. In terms of interventions, we like to follow this triangular approach that's on the screen at the moment. So at the bottom we have the universal entitlement, which is quality first teaching, and that is kind of step one, and that's what we would expect. That's what we would expect to see within our mainstream classrooms, and what we'd expect teachers to implement at a classroom level. Then we would expect targeted departmental intervention. So this is where teachers may identify some additional needs for the students, and they might, they differentiate the work, or they might deliver some in-class interventions to support the child. Should we need to take that up another level, that's when then they would refer to ourselves within the SEND department, and we would run some additional tests, additional assessments, and we might put some additional targeted intervention, and that can be a variety of things. We have a vast amount of resources and a vast amount of teaching programs to do interventions. And for me, it's really important that we baseline our interventions and we keep them quite short, so that then we minimize the amount of time they are taken out of mainstream lessons and away from specialist teaching within their subject areas. And then finally, the final kind of level of our triangle there is going to external agencies, and we work with a variety of external agencies to support us in delivering the most inclusive practice and inclusive learning that we can for our children. We work very closely with the speech and language team. We have a speech and language therapist that comes in 1 day a week to work with the students in the base, and we also work very closely with the CCN team, the complex communication team, hearing impairment team, visual impairment team, to list a few. We're constantly speaking in liaison with them and doing what we can to support your children. Thank you. So we've been working really hard over the past few months to ensure that we can support our children's mental health and well-being, and ensuring that they're able to self-regulate their emotions and learn how to de-escalate themselves. And I've just shared this slide as this is something that's really important for ourselves. The zones of regulation is something that I've been working quite a lot on at the minute to include in our work. And the zones of regulations looks at expected and unexpected behaviour, rather than saying appropriate and inappropriate behaviour, because all behaviour is appropriate, but it's not expected in certain situations. And that's something that we would work with. We'd be working through with your children, and that's something that would be happening within department, but also as a whole school thing. We also have been using Talk About for Teenagers a lot at the minute during lockdown to support the children, and that's a really good opportunity to develop their social communication and their social development. And we use that in complement to the lunch club provision, the breakfast club provision that we offer. Of course, as I've said already, provision may look different in September as a result of government guidance, but again, that will be shared with you in a timely manner so that you're aware of what is on offer to you. Okay. So preparing for September, again, one of the documents that I did share with you in the transition booklet was this one. And this one for me is one of the most important documents, because your children are going to feel anxious, and that is fine. And it's good to feel anxious, and it's good to be worried, because it is a change and it is something new. And this document, this worksheet, just goes through those worries for them, and you can go through them with them. So what is causing the worry, and what can we do to alleviate that worry? And we're here as to talk to if there is any worries that you have. And I can see that some people have sent in some questions already, which is fantastic, and I'm sure that there may be things there that when I answer them, that will reassure you. What I would say as well is, with these documents, please fill them in. If you want to print them off, and you can handwrite them and bring them in September, and then we can keep them, and then we can use them for mentoring sessions or for catch-ups that we have with the children when they come to us in September. Okay, so with emotional well-being at the forefront of our minds at the moment, and we move towards reopening, we wanted to outline our guiding principles for how we move forward with this transition and make it as smooth as possible. And we're thinking of adopting the following imagery and the following acronym: SWAN. And SWAN stands for safe, welcoming, all together, and nurturing. So for safe, we want you and your child to feel safe, calm, and reassured, and to know that it will be okay to come back to school. So we are already working on creating an environment that is and feels physically and emotionally safe for all of us. We want to build up predictability and consistency around hygiene and other safety rules, which school staff will role model noticeably and praise your child following accordingly. We will support any child through any misunderstandings and refer to the benefits of what we are doing. We want to invite suggestions from you and work in partnership so that you have a genuine voice in building this new normal for your children. And we want you to feel involved and invested, and to start to reinforce these rules and messages at home in advance of them starting with us in September. And as I've said, I'm going to create a frequently asked questions sheet to try and anticipate some of your concerns, and more guidance and more information will follow before they start with us in September. Welcoming, when the children start, we want them to feel excited and happy coming into school, and we want them to know that we are genuinely delighted to have them, and we cannot wait to see them. And we're so excited to meet them properly and get to know them. There's a real community feel at Pershore, and they belong here. They need to know that they belong here, and we want them to feel a part of things, and we will do everything we can to enable this. And the SEND department is a very nurturing department, and they will have the opportunity to attend lunch club and different clubs within our department, but we would also encourage them to take part in the wider community and engage in other extracurricular activities when they feel ready to do so. And that comes through regular dialogue with yourselves and regular reviewing of things. So my plan for students, especially with an EHCP, of course, we would review your child's progress at 3 points throughout the year. One stage in that year is during the annual review process, but then the other 2 would be at points throughout the year to look at short-term targets in mind of the long-term outcomes. For all togetherness, we want to think, how can we create these warm, welcoming feelings when we can't touch each other, when we can't keep a safe distance, when we have to keep a safe distance, sorry. And we need to create a truly inclusive environment in which the children feel surrounded by support and know that they can rely on all the adults around them, and that we're all reinforcing the same messages and the same sense of togetherness. And again, I can't reiterate enough how much of a sense of community this school has, and it's very important to us that we make you and your children feel a part of everything. You are part of the decision-making process when it comes to SEND. You are the experts, as I've said before, and I am always open to comments, and I'm always open to strategies that have worked really, really well to support your children. Okay, finally, nurture. Oh, sorry. One more, sir. Nurturing. A key point here is to play the long game and not rush ahead with trying to make up for lost time or to add intense academic pressure and stress. we will focus on settling your children in, meeting their social and emotional needs, and on their readiness to learn skills to enable them to become lifelong learners in the long term. But we need to make sure that their emotional well-being and that is secure and they feel happy, welcomed and comfortable here. The COVID generation of children are going to be unique, and we want to enable them to flourish, which is not going to be an overnight job. But we do have the potential to do a lot of good here and to repair the significant rupture that this virus has caused, and to prepare our children to be strong adults and lifelong learners in the future, as well as happy and resilient children in their present at Pershore High School. I'd like to thank you for attending this evening. I know it's quite brief, but thank you so much for coming along. I hope that this is giving you the opportunity to feel reassured, feel happy, and that we are very much looking forward to welcoming your children to our school in September. And you can have a look at the website and double check, have a look at the provision, the offer, and if there are any questions, please do not hesitate to contact me. I am happy to answer any questions. There's a few questions that have come through, and I'm happy to answer those in a frequently asked questions document for you. But I would also like to just signpost you to the Preparing for September 2020 online meeting, which is for all students and parents and carers within our school community on Wednesday, the 15th of July at 6:15. And that's going to give you a more general overview of how things are going to look for September within the whole school community. That's everything from me. Thank you so much for coming this evening, and I'm very much looking forward to seeing your children and meeting you all in September. Hopefully we'll be able to have the coffee mornings and have a lovely summer break, and see you in September.